As I was trying to decide what story to tell today, I was trying to decide if I wanted to tell another snake story. I do have lots of snake stories if you haven't noticed. Or if I wanted to talk about the time that I crashed a semi-truck. And I decided to go with the semi-truck because I think it has a little bit of a life lesson for what I think is one of the problems we have in the world today. But problem is I haven't prepared any statement on that. I can tell stories without preparing, but if I'm wanting to give a life lesson like that, sometimes I have to think about what I want to say. So at the end of this it might ramble a little bit, but we'll go with it anyway. When I was 18 and I left home and went to Tulsa to work construction so I could earn some money to go to BYU and to save money for my mission. I got a job working construction in Tulsa. I was working for my Uncle Don Gifford, and at the time $5 an hour seemed like a lot of money. Now that would be like, I think minimum wage right now is more like $15 an hour, but back then that was pretty good money. One day they said they needed a couple of guys to drive off-site from the construction site and to go check on another project they were doing. And so they picked me and my cousin Jamie. I've told you about him before. And this is another example of why I always considered him a little bit crazy. But they asked us to go run this errand, and so we jump in. We borrowed the company truck. We jumped in the truck. We were driving off the site. When we got to the gate, there's only one gate to go in and out. We got to the gate, and there was a big semi-truck parked there. And we looked around to see because we couldn't get out, and couldn't find the driver. And so finally, I told my cousin Jamie, "Well, you watch behind, make sure I don't run into anything. And I'll bet you I can figure out how to back up this semi-truck," which shows a little bit my personality, that I thought I could do anything, even though I had no idea what I was doing. And as the story ends, you'll see it didn't all turn out real well. And so I jump up in there, and first thing I notice is I'm used to driving a truck with one gear shift. This one has 3. And I think, okay, well, that's a little different, but I start playing with those gear knobs and finally figured out how to get them just right to make the truck back up. Well, the truck was still running. The driver left it running. And I also, when I reflect on this story, think, man, I must have been brave back then, because even now as an adult, I never would have driven somebody else's truck like that. And that's what we're going to talk about at the end of what has changed. I don't think it's just because I've become more conservative, but the world has kind of changed. Anyway, so I get it backing up, and my cousin's standing back there watching me, and he keeps saying, "Come on back, come on back." And so I'm not going that fast, 1 or 2 miles an hour or something. And he keeps telling me, "Come on back," and then all of a sudden I hear this crash. There's a big dumpster back there, and yeah, I'm now backed into a dumpster. I don't know if you've seen construction site dumpsters, they're pretty big. And so I think, oh my gosh, and I hurry and get it back in forward gear and pull up a few feet and put it back in neutral and put the brake on. Just as I'm getting ready to get out of the truck, the driver comes walking up. I remember his words to me, "Well, how did you like driving that?" And I said, "It was great." Apparently he hadn't heard the crash and had no idea that I had just crashed his semi. And so my cousin and I both jumped back in the pickup truck and take off driving without ever telling the driver what we had done, which I shouldn't be laughing now because that was very wrong of me, and I would tell my grandkids never to crash somebody else's vehicle and not confess to it. But that's what I did, and so I can't lie. I try to keep all these stories as honest as possible. And I mostly blame my cousin for saying, come on back. I couldn't see all the way back there. This truck, keep in mind, is like 50 feet long. So anyway, the thing I think it's taught me, first off, I thought I must be changed because I wouldn't be near that brave now to do something like that. And I thought, you know, it's not just me that's changed, it's the world. When I was growing up, if you were trying to do the right thing and you weren't being mischievous or trying to be bad, almost always you could tell people, oh, I'm sorry if you make a mistake, and they wouldn't get that mad at you. They'd tell you not to do it again. And if you cause damages, you'd probably have to pay for it. But it's not like it is in the world today with so many lawsuits and cancel culture. And the whole world, I think, is forced upon younger people and even older people. Don't you dare do something wrong or we're going to try to destroy your life. And that's not the way it used to be. I think people used to be encouraged to be risk takers and take chances on things. And when you make a mistake, you learn from it. And I'm afraid we've lost a little bit of that in the world today. And so with that, we'll cut this off this video and we'll move on to my snake story.